YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back. Heading into NFL Week 17, the final regular season week. Teams are in playoff mode. I'm in playoff mode. Teams are fighting for playoff seedings. Teams are fighting to get into the playoffs, more importantly, to win their division. And we're going to take a look at some scenarios. We're going to take a look at different outcomes here, ones that are realistic, obviously. Maybe we won't go over every single one here, but yeah, probably pretty much every one. We'll see what games can change, what outcomes, everything. We'll take a look what could possibly happen here for the playoffs based on Week 17. Please subscribe if you're new. We have weekly predictions, power rankings, more. We're going to be ranking the playoff teams once the teams are set, talking about how they can win the Super Bowl, how they can go on a run, how maybe they can't for every team. A lot to get to, so join us for that. Be much appreciated. There's a link in the description and comments for anything that you may need there. Follow that Twitter. It's very important. Let's talk about that, actually. Yeah, if you're not following us, we got like 62K subscribers on YouTube. We got, it's a good amount here. We're hitting 5K. I like it, but you're missing out on, I think, even more NFL content on this Twitter. I'm constantly talking. Every week you guys vote for, I just posted these, Offensive Player Week 16. These are attached at semifinals, and then defense as well. We're retweeting any news. We're tweeting out breaking news, talking during live games, giving you takeaways. If you're not following this Twitter, you go ahead and do it. Be much appreciated. If you don't have a Twitter, make one. Just follow us. You don't need to follow anybody else. You're missing out on a lot. So we really appreciate it if you can check that out. We're going to use playoffpredictors.com here for this. It's a very cool website. It's very useful, really. You can click current standings. It gives you the current standings, really, what's going on here. So you guys could play along, basically. But here are the Week 17 games. I just want to start. I haven't done anything. I'm doing this live with you guys. So we're kind of going to wing it. But I think it's the best way to do it, kind of just seeing what could happen. The Bengals are playing some good football right now. But, we know the Ravens got to be the favorite here. So let's kind of go through and see who the favorites would be. Ones that don't really matter. The Chiefs are playing their best. It doesn't really matter for this one. The Chiefs are, the Chargers, I think, are actually favored in this game. We'll just pick that. We'll have our weekly picks. It's actually coming tonight. Score predictions on Wednesday. So we'll go over in depth on why I think these teams will win this game, and so on in those videos. This has playoff implications. We'll skip that. Who knows who win that one? Let's just click one. Broncos, Raiders doesn't really matter. The Raiders are probably favored. We'll take them. The Falcons, Buccaneers actually matters. Let's see if we can skip through. Vikings, Lions doesn't really matter. We'll take the Vikings. I don't know if the Saints are fighting for seeding. I'd imagine they'd win that game against the Panthers. Who knows, though, but I'd imagine. Seahawks fighting for seeding as well. We got to imagine they would win that game. So that leaves some pretty big games here. And we can play around with multiple scenarios here with these, but let's go to the Bills and Dolphins. The Bills are favored in this game. The Browns, so we'll come back and swap. We could switch that at some point. We're just here. We're not here to maybe predict or, whatever. We're here to look at different scenarios. The Steelers are playing Mason Rudolph, so you got to think the Browns are favored. The Colts lost to the Jags the first time they played. That was week 1. I think the Colts are heavy favorites for a reason. Titans, Texans, another one. The Texans gave the Titans a run for their money. They probably should have won that game. So it's nothing free here, but you got to imagine the Titans. The Bears are playing pretty good football. We're going to pick the Packers in this first scenario. They're the favorites for a reason. The Falcons were beating up the Buccaneers in the first half last time they played, which was just 2 weeks ago. Buccaneers are heating up. The Buccaneers are probably favorites. These NFC East games, I don't know what's going to happen. First scenario for the John Wolford's playing probably against Kyler Murray. First scenario, we're going to go with the Cardinals, but that can go either way. With this scenario, let's just say we know what's going to happen here. Let's start talking about the NFC East. If Washington wins, they are in. They are locked in the 4 seed. So this does not matter. This does not matter. Let's say the Eagles win. This game's first actually, but because so let's say the Giants beat the Cowboys, and then they got to rely on the Eagles being Washington. Let's say that happens, and the Giants, they're in the 4 seed. If the Cowboys win that game, they're in the 4 seed. So we're done with the NFC East. There's nothing else to learn here. If Washington wins on Sunday night, they are in. But the winner of Cowboys Giants will be watching that game very closely, because if Washington loses, that team that won the Cowboys-Giants game is in. That's why they made Washington football team versus Eagles Sunday Night Football. And we got free advertisement here. We're not even getting paid for this. So we'll do one of those. But yeah, so basically we got the NFC East out of the way. So with the scenario that I did, let's take a look. We got the Chiefs at the 1 seed. We got the Bills at the 2 seed. We got Steelers 3, Titans 4, Ravens 5, Browns 6, Colts 7. So that would be the playoffs there for the. And if you click next, you can see who plays who. The Titans would play the Ravens. Steelers would play the Browns 2 weeks in a row. The Bills would play the Colts. Titans beat the Ravens last year in the playoffs. They beat them again this year. So is that third time the charge for the Ravens there? We see the Packers hang on to the 1 seed. Saints get 2 in this scenario. Seahawks 3. The Cowboys sneak in 4. Buccaneers 5. Cardinals 6. Rams 7. So, and this could be the Giants either way. It could be Washington. We're not here to decide that right now. We know the scenario for that. It could be Washington. Who knows? But kind of going back, let's see something. If the Packers lose, in this scenario, the Packers drop from 1 to 3. See, I didn't even know that. I thought they would drop from 1 to 2, so I'm learning stuff right now. They drop to 3. The Seahawks, so if the Seahawks lose that, the Seahawks drop to 3. I don't think the Seahawks are going to lose. Who knows, though? I mean, who has a better chance of losing, the Seahawks or the Packers? Probably the Packers prove they're a tough matchup for the Bears. But it's probably the Packers that are more likely to lose. Yeah, the Seahawks are going to play pretty good defense against the Niners. So the Packers could actually get the 3 seed, which is pretty wild. You take a look, and then that would be wild right there in this scenario. The Packers play the Bears back-to-back weeks. Would they lose to them twice in a row? I really don't think so. We can play around with so many scenarios. What happens if the Rams win this, though? If the Rams beat the Cardinals, which is possible even with Walford, they got a good defense to slow down the Cardinals. Remember, the Cardinals couldn't score against the Niners' beat-up defense, so who knows? And we still have the Packers getting the 3 seed, so it's a little different. Then the Bears would play the Seahawks. The Packers would play the Rams, which that's an interesting matchup because the Packers are clear-cut better in the Rams right now. But that matchup is interesting. Because the Rams got a really good defense, and they're very good at blitzing. They actually can get pressure on Rodgers. They can slow down the Packers' high-powered offense. I'm confident they can slow them down. It would depend on if Akers was healthy, because if Akers was healthy, the Rams actually can make this very interesting. So that would actually be a good game. The Packers would be favorites. They're the better team, but you look at the matchup, the Rams actually could win that game. So that makes things interesting. With the Buccaneers are heating up, but when they play a really good defense, they slow down. So this is an interesting one if this happens. So it's really a must-win for the Packers. It's really a must-win. Let's say if the Packers lose and the Saints lose, and the Seahawks win, the Seahawks get the 1 seed. The Seahawks will get the 2 seed if the Packers win. Yeah, so we see the different scenarios there. We probably should have looked if the Packers lose, Saints lose, the Seahawks. I just really don't see the Seahawks winning. They're losing. They get the bye, and you see Saints, Rams, you see Packers, Bears. So there's a lot of scenarios where the Packers can play the Bears. But if we go back to this and the Saints lose, different scenarios here. Saints play the Rams, the Seahawks instead of the Packers play the Bears. So just really one different thing there. That way. Let's take a look at what if the Cardinals would pull it off in this scenario. See the Saints versus the Cardinals. It's an interesting matchup. Could Kyler Murray be a problem with the Saints? Have they played against that? It seems like it's something they haven't really seen, this year. But the Saints are the better team. Definitely more balanced as well. And then you got Seahawks Rams. They just played each other. It seems like McVay is a problem for the Seahawks. So could they beat them a second time in a row? So there's some questions there. So interesting questions no matter who plays who, basically. Let's go to if the Falcons beat the Bucks. Let's go back to having the favorites win. Packers. I want to see this actually. What's the records there? 9-7. No, the Buccaneers still have 10 wins. So yeah, because the Bears. I was curious because the Bears beat the Buccaneers. So doesn't matter there. What matters is the Cardinals Rams game. So the Buccaneers still have the 5 seed. If the Rams win, remember the Rams, they played a really good defensive game against the Bucs. They beat them. The Rams get the 5 seed. Fresh off losing to the Jets in a disappointing game against the Seahawks because they had no offense. They could possibly get the 5 seed and play Washington football team or the Giants or the Cowboys. If it's the Giants or Washington football team, that's a defensive ball game. That's going to be a fun playoff defensive ball game. And the Buccaneers would play the Seahawks, which is a tough blow, I think, to the Seahawks might be in a tough situation if they have the 3 seed. I'm not saying they're going to lose. I'm not saying that. They're playing good football right now, very balanced. But if they could play the Rams, which they've had problems with McVay in the past, and it's not, we know the game's probably not going to play out exactly how it just played out a week ago when they played the Rams. The Rams move the ball. If the Rams execute in those situations in the red zone, they win that game, plain and simple. But if they play the Seahawks, I think that's kind of a bad matchup for the Seahawks. I think it's a really bad matchup for the Seahawks. I don't think they want to see the Bucs. I don't think they want to see them because I think they could slow down Tom Brady and the boys, but I think the Buccaneers will score a decent amount of points, a decent amount of points. And the Buccaneers defense could slow down they got a good blitz game, and that's going to be a problem there. They can slow down the Seahawks. That would be a bad matchup, in my opinion. I'm not saying they would for sure lose, but so that's interesting that the Rams could actually get the 5 seed here. We've seen the Bears were all the way up. We played that scenario. The Bears could possibly get the 6 seed. We talked about that. They can get 6 or 7. So I think we're pretty much done with the NFC here. If we want to get crazy, let's just say a bunch of upsets win. I don't know if I consider that an upset. Let's say who's favoring the Giants. It doesn't really matter. Let's say all the upsets win. All the underdogs. I don't know who's underdog in that game. Walford's at quarterback, which I actually had a draftable grade on him out of Wake Forest. I liked him, so you can't really sleep on him. But with him at quarterback versus Kyler Murray, if Kyler Murray plays, which I expect him to, Cam Akers or Darrell Henderson, her Rams are probably the upset team there. So if that happens, which is pretty unrealistic, but we're having some fun here now, and I don't know why, we see some interesting matchups. But let's kind of go back to, I'm not saying who I'm picking. I'm just saying who I think the favorites are. I saw most of the lines. These are probably the favorites. The Saints, Seahawks are heavy favorites. Cardinals, Rams, 50-50. Let's go to the AFC again. I know we messed around with a little bit, kind of got back and forth. We got lost track here. So these are probably the favorites to win. Chiefs, Chargers doesn't matter. Colts will probably beat the Jags. Can't take them lightly, though. The Jags are locked into the first spot. They might try to win now. Patriots, Jets don't matter. Titans, same thing. The Titans and Colts, Titans, same situation. Texans can straight out score. Titans defense, pretty bad right now. They can't get pressure, which is a key against Deshaun Watson. It's going to be a high-scoring game. Titans could lose this game. They could. Raiders and Broncos doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We'll go with the home team. I had it sitting on the Raiders for some. We can go tie. Well, they're gonna tie. Does that change anything? I don't know. Well, it doesn't really matter. So in this scenario, I think we saw this already. We saw this 2 weeks in a row. Steelers by the Browns. The Colts and the Bills is different. Something different. Like it. Titans, Ravens. Third time charm maybe for the Ravens. Ravens are playing better ball right now. Who knows there? Let's see what happens if I mentioned that the Titans. That's not a free one. They should win. They should win the game. Don't get me wrong here. They're the 7th seed. They're barely squeaking in. They got to play the Bills, who they handled on a Tuesday night football game. Since then, the Bills have gotten much better. This game won't be played on Tuesday night. I can promise you that. So that's interesting. I'm not picking a team there. And then the Steelers and the Browns still, they want it to happen back-to-back weeks. Maybe that's a big reason why. What is happening here? We're just getting free advertisement. I don't like it, but that's okay. It's probably why the Steelers bench their guys. They have kind of a feeling that maybe they'll play the Browns twice. We'll go over more scenarios, see if that's the case. Colts, Ravens, they played each other in a close defensive game not too long ago. I think the difference, Jonathan Taylor had a costly fumble, which could happen. It's probably not going to happen again, but it could. That could be the difference, but I think both offenses are better since then. I think both defense actually might be a little worse. They both can get a little more yards, a little more points, mainly yards than last time. I think both offenses are better. I think that's quite clear, actually. I think the Ravens a little more of an edge offensively, a little more consistent of an offense as well. So I would like a game again, rematch again, I suppose. Okay, so talk about the AFC South. So that means the Colts would actually win the division. Wild. But what if what if they just both lost? The Titans win a division, and then we're kind of we're not back to normal. The Dolphins sneak in. Even if the Dolphins lose to the Bills, the Colts lose to the Jags, the Dolphins sneak in. The Colts are out. If they don't beat the Jags, they're really not deserving probably. So we see Dolphins, Bills. back-to-back week 17, and we see the Steelers-Browns back-to-back weeks. We see the third meeting between the Titans and Ravens. Pretty wild stuff. Some things we're familiar with. Doesn't mean it'll be the same outcomes. The Colts are probably going to win that game, though. Colts are probably going to win that game. Let's see. We talked about the Dolphins. The Dolphins win. Oh, man, the Colts stay out. The Colts win. Man, that's tough. What would happen if the Bengals would beat the Ravens would be in, the Colts would be Ravens would be out, the Colts would be in. So the Colts are a fan of a couple other teams. This is probably not going to happen with the Ravens Bengals. But this could happen, and that definitely should happen. Dolphins are a pretty good team, more of a defensive challenge for Josh Allen and company there. So the Colts would be in this scenario. So the Colts are big. They're big Texans guys first, I think. They're big Texans guys because remember they win the division here. So they're in. They win the division. AFC South title, pretty big there, pretty big turnaround. So they're Texans guys first. But then they are Bills. They are Bills guys, because this is wild because they win and they're not in. But then if this happens and the Titans aren't in, the Colts in the division, the Titans aren't in, and again the Titans could lose to the Texans. They could. They're the better team. They should win. I expect them to win. They could lose. They might have been a little fortunate last time. The Colts were fortunate both times against the Texans. So something weird's going on there at the AFC South with the Texans. The Texans could have 3 more wins just in the AFC South alone right now. Pretty wild. So in this scenario, the Tennessee Titans, who have been one of the better offenses in all of football this year, out of the playoffs just like that. And if they lose the Texans, they're probably not deserving, to be honest. But then you could look, if they were in the NFC, they'd probably be one of the better teams, though. So that would be tough. It'd be tough. So the Dolphins would be in instead of, in this scenario, they would be the 6th seed. Let me go back. Let me see something. Are they the? Does that say 6? No, that says 5. I'm confusing myself here. So if in this scenario with the Colts out, the Colts and the Titans, who are both favorites, win, but the Dolphins win. This scenario puts them actually at the 5 seed. How is that? That puts them at the 5 seed? The Ravens are 6. That's pretty wild. So Dolphins, Titans, that's defense versus offense. So that'd be Ravens here. So that's kind of the scenario to get rid of the Browns and the Steelers matchup. The Browns will play the Bills, which would be fun. That'd be a fun matchup. Two offensive teams. That would be fun. That'd be a great matchup, I think, even though it's 2 versus 7. So that's pretty interesting there. Let's say what if both these teams lose? Yeah, we knew that. I'm confusing myself here. So we didn't see who plays who in this scenario. The Dolphins play the Colts. Defensive matchup, Ravens, Steelers, Browns, Bills. Yeah. Steelers, that's not even affecting the Browns there if the Steelers win. What if the Bills? So if the Browns lose and the Bills win, the Browns are out. We have this happening, though. The Browns out. So this is so many scenarios in the AFC. It's ridiculous. Expect the Browns to win. Is there any other scenarios? We saw the scenarios where the Ravens could be out. I just don't think it's going to happen. The Ravens can't be out, though, if... So it looks like the Dolphins have the tiebreaker over them. Is that the case? If the Dolphins have the tiebreaker over the Ravens... but it looks like the Ravens win, they're in here. There's no other scenario here. Yeah, the Ravens win, they're in. I expect them to win. The Bengals are playing pretty good ball right now. I expect them to win. I just think the Dolphins-Bills game is probably the biggest game because it affects so much. Like the Colts could win. The Colts could win and be out if the Dolphins win. And I think the Titans and the Texans is a pretty important game because, and again, the Colts lost to the Jags last time. The Jags are already locked in at 1, so they could try. So they could lose. I just think if I had to pick who's more likely to lose, I think the Titans are better than the Colts. The Colts have more balance. I like the Titans better than them. Last time they played head-to-head kind of showed that, but you can't base it off one game. but I think the Titans have more shot to lose this week and blow it than the Colts do. So with that being said, I think the Titans and the Texans are probably one of the more important games here after the Dolphins-Bills. Because the Dolphins could actually get the 5 seed if the Bills win, if the Bills beat the Dolphins, they need the Colts to. What happens if the Dolphins are still out? Titans get the tiebreaker over the Dolphins. So this doesn't matter to them. This matters. So the Dolphins are big Jaguars guys, or Bengals guys. They're big Jags and Bengals guys, apparently. That gets pretty confusing in the AFC. I knew everything about the NFC, except I didn't know the Packers could end up with the 3 seed. That was pretty damn interesting. They should beat the Bears, but you never know. The Bears are heating up. The Packers can end up. That's something I learned there. And the AFC gets pretty confusing. So what we learned here was the Dolphins could get as high as a 5 seed. The Colts, I kind of knew that, but the Colts could actually be out by winning still. I just don't think the Ravens are going to lose. The Dolphins could. The Bills are the hottest team in football right now. It's a dangerous team. Even if they somehow lose this game, the Bills are a dangerous team. Something we did not look at, actually. We probably did, but I didn't talk about it, is the Bills versus the Steelers. So if the Bills win, they're the 2 seed because they beat them a couple weeks ago. They beat them pretty comfortably. But if the Bills lose, it's just the same thing. That's why, the Steelers, not playing Mason Rudolph, a little questionable. I think they feel that they want to play the Browns twice in a row, and they think that's a strong possibility there, or they just feel the Bills are just going to win. But I don't know why. The Dolphins could win. The Bills are favorites for a reason, and we're just giving free advertisements again. And I'm confused. The Steelers could get the 2 seed here. So let's see. Let's go back to the favorites winning. I think we got it for the most part, except for the Browns. Steelers getting the 2 seed. The Bills will play the Ravens, which should be a really good game. The Steelers would play the Colts. Oh man, I kind of like this. I kind of like this. It's probably not going to happen, but I kind of like it. There's a lot. I probably said that about a lot of scenarios. We get the Titans versus Dolphins. Why I like this game, I think the Titans and the Dolphins combined, apparently. I think the Titans are probably the better contender, more of a run, because it's an offensive era and they have a high-powered offense. But here's a matchup situation, and I'm not necessarily saying it sides with the Dolphins, but the Titans' problem is their defense just stinks. It's bad right now. I think their secondary is getting better. Adoree Jackson get back in the mold. Malcolm Butler's been playing a lot better, and we're advertising Best Buy. Nobody go buy anything for Best Buy. So their secondary is getting better. The pass rush sucks. It just stinks. It's a shame that Clowney got hurt. Jeffrey Simmons getting doubled, tripled because he's the only guy there. The Dolphins' problem is they're not really scoring consistently, and this is a defense that you'd think they would be able to score on. Fitzpatrick or Tua probably, but I think Fitzpatrick could do some damage. It'd be interesting to see what quarterback they would roll with. And their defense could slow down. They're not going to stop them. They can slow down the Titans. So putting it that way sounds like the matchup might favor the Dolphins, but I do think, even though it's a good defense, you can run the ball on the Dolphins. They may have some problems with Derrick Henry, and they can control the time of possession. So that would be a reason to argue Titans. Why I like Ravens-Bills, I think it'd be a hell of a matchup. I think it'd be an offensive matchup. We've seen them in a tight game last year in the regular season when they played. Doesn't mean much, but it was a good game. It's debatable on whose defense is better. They both get takeaway. They both are playmaking defense. They take the ball away. It's just going to be Josh Allen airing the ball out, Lamar Jackson on the ground, to very valuable players, to very damn good football players in this league, in this era. I would love that game. Love it. And then the Steelers and the Colts just played. The Colts dominated the first half of the game. The Steelers dominated the second half, mainly just the fourth quarter. Came back and won. The Colts had some mistakes kind of going away from the run game, and some bad play call decision. Yeah, that kind of goes into the same thing. And Phillip Rivers making mistakes, throwing into triple coverage, throwing the ball to the other team. And the Steelers might have figured something out for themselves, but against the Colts. So playing again would be wild. I would love this. I just don't think it happens because two things need to happen. The Steelers need to beat the Browns, playing Mason Rudolph, and the Bills, hot Bills, need to lose to the Dolphins. The Bills and the Browns are both favorites for a reason. Spoiler, I'm probably going to pick both to win this week. Which one's more likely to happen? I think the Dolphins are actually more likely to upset the Bills than perhaps. The Browns just lost to the Jets, though. So we'll kind of go with that scenario, and that gives us Dolphins. We still get Dolphins, Titans. I do like the Browns, Bills. It's going to be the Browns. They have a similar situation as the Tennessee Titans, which Tennessee Titans gave problems to the Bills. The Bills are better. It's a similar match, is what I'm saying, but the Bills are better than they were then. Steelers, Ravens. Steelers won both those games. Both could have went either way, and the second time they had a bunch of backups in the Ravens, that is, so that'd be a pretty good game. Yeah, it's good. I'm excited. I'm even more excited now. We know the games to watch out for, but ones that I'm looking forward to most right now, I really think this isn't easy for the Titans. I am going to pick them. Spoiler, I'm going to pick them. But yeah, a lot of these are big, but that one, the Colts could actually win and be out still, so that means the Dolphins game is huge. I'm a little surprised Steelers are benching and playing Mason Rudolph. I know they want to keep Big Ben. He's kind of wearing down a little bit. And he picked it up this last game, but he had to go all out. So that kind of makes sense. And they may expect to play somebody, And then I did learn that the Packers can get the 3 seed. That's pretty wild. The Bucs are trying to solidify that 5 seed, but I don't think it's a big deal if they end up with the 6 seed. I really don't. We know the NFC East. This game will be first. The winner will be huge Eagles fans because the winner, if the Eagles win, will be in the playoffs into that 4 spot playing the Bucs, or we saw the Rams were an option. That doesn't matter. The Saints should likely beat the Panthers, but can't kind of blow it here, because they could possibly get a lower seed, 3 seed. They're still fighting for a 1, even though it's unlikely. Seahawks can't mess around either, but they need some help. Cardinals, Rams, pretty big game. The Bears are going to be heavily watching that game unless the Bears win. They'll still be, because if the Bears win, they're the 6th seed in this scenario. The Rams beat the Bears, so the Bears would be the 7th seed in that scenario. So they're watching this game no matter what. The Packers, the favorites, win. Bears are out if the Cardinals win. Bears kind of got screwed that Jared Goff got injured, but a lot of people don't like Jared Goff. They might think they have an even shot with Wolford. I think what would screw them more, honestly, is if Cam Akers and Darrell Henderson will be out. If both are out, Rams kind of need Cam Akers in this game. He's pretty damn good. Seen Jeff Wilson run on the Cardinals. So that's probably the biggest game, besides the NFC East situation there. But yeah, the 1, 2, 3 seed between the Packers, Saints, Seahawks, pretty important here. All the other teams, they're fighting for better draft position. Me as a Vikings fan, I'd probably want to, it's kind of weird to say, I kind of would like to lose the Lions, get a little better draft pick. I don't know. I'm not going to lose any sleep over that, though. But yeah, a lot of scenarios, I like doing this video because I like to see the different matchups we can see in the playoffs, because every matchup is different. It doesn't matter who's playing better ball, who's the better overall team against the field. It matters about that specific matchup. So I like a lot of these matchups we possibly can get. So can't wait till the playoff field is set. Once it's set, we will go over every game. We'll rank the playoff teams based on how good they will be in the playoffs, in my opinion, what their strengths and weaknesses are, how they can win the Super Bowl, how maybe they can't win the Super Bowl. We'll go over all of that in our normal videos as well. Even in the offseason, we have you covered. So go ahead and smash that like button, subscribe, turn notifications on so you don't miss a thing. Follow us on Twitter. It'll be much appreciated. Link down below in the comments description for that, and anything that you need there. Check all those links out, and that would also be much appreciated. That's going to do it for this one, though. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Goodbye.